All right, y'all. So this is gonna be my first YouTube video. Some of y'all might already follow me on TikTok at Quay3Wise97. Um, this is my full life story, my first YouTube video, and I just want to get into it just to share all that God has done for me, just how good He's been to me, and we're just gonna get into it. So first of all, my name is LaQuasia, born and raised in South Carolina. I'm 24 years old. Um, my story begins being raised by my mom. I'm a child of a single parent. She raised me and my brother. It was just us three. My father was an alcoholic. So growing up, he didn't grow up. I didn't grow up with him in the home, but I was able to see him whenever I wanted to. Whenever he wanted to come see me, he was able to. But because of my mother, she was a Christian, like a true Christian lady. And I'm talking a woman who she was on Sundays, that's who she was for the remainder of the week. It was no changing up on her. She never bashed us. She never cursed us out, none of that type of stuff. Like, she was really, really walking out the faith. And so my mother was always supportive, but she just never didn't want me growing up seeing the effects of alcoholism and seeing my father in that light. So, she raised me and my brother, and we have separate fathers, but she held it down for us. And she was just a great, great woman of God. And so growing up again, my mom was always supportive. I grew up around my aunts, great aunts, and my great grandmother. We were all in church, stayed in church, always covered in the blood of Jesus, always covered, in prayer, and just always uplifted and encouraged, no negativity, like no strife or toxicity. I didn't grow up seeing, people on drugs and stuff like that. Like, other than my father, his alcoholism, which my mother guarded me from, I didn't have a very toxic childhood. And so, yeah, growing up, my mom was just a great and virtuous woman of God, and she put that in both of us, me and my brother. And so, again, growing up, it was just us three. It was always us three. She took care of us. I remember vividly seeing her go to bed hungry so that we could eat. And things like that, you don't ever forget. You don't ever forget. So I grew up with this great respect for women, specifically women, because of the women that I had in my life who poured into me and loved me and sheltered me and protected me and made me who I am today. So like I said, you never forget stuff like that. And I just always had an admiration for my mother. Like, I just loved her so much, and I looked up to her. Like, that's who I wanted to be like, all time, because of who she was. And so when I was 10 years old, her and my brother, they had just dropped me off to my school. They had just dropped me off to school. I was in 4th grade at the time. And she was dropping him off to daycare. And after she drops him off to daycare, she always went to work or whatever. And so that day specifically, they got into a car accident. And it was bad. It was real bad. And from what I was told, like, it was nobody but God, because if I would have been in that passenger seat, which is where I always sat, if I would have been in that passenger seat, I probably wouldn't even be here right now. So they got in a car accident. My brother was in a coma for 4 days, and he came out of it. And my mother, she was in a coma for 9 months, and she ended up dying, passing away. And it was hard. It was very hard, because that was the only parent that I had. That was the only parent I had. I was only 10 years old at the time, so my world literally came crashing down. Didn't know what to do. Like, my aunts, I remember they told me, your mom passed away. And I'm like, what does that mean? At 10 years old, I'd never been to a funeral, didn't know anything about death, none of that. Like, my mom was all that we had. So it's like, what do you mean? Like, what's going to happen now? So in the time when she was in the hospital, stayed in the hospital for 9 months, me and my brother were in between both of our aunts' houses, because we all lived in the same neighborhood. So we were in between both of their homes, as well as my grandparents, staying with them on the weekends, hopefully until, my mom got better. And so being that she passed away, my father's not in my life. My brother's father not in his life. And so it was just like, what are we going to do? And so my grandparents were the only ones who were stable enough to keep us, right? They were the only ones who were stable enough to raise us. And so, they went through the whole court thing, and they got us. And like I said, my grandparents are a pastor and a first lady. And like I said, this is my story. I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to be raw and transparent with y'all. Like I said, my grandparents, I love them, and I thank them for raising us and, keeping us like they did, and keeping us in church, raising us up in God. But y'all, me and my brother's childhood, like, I break my life down from, 10 years old up until my mom passed to after my mom passed. And like I said, life was amazing when my mom was living. You know what I'm saying? Like, we went through some things, but it was never a thing of where, oh my gosh, my life just sucks. No, because of the woman that she did, we could have been going through the worst times, but it didn't seem like it. It didn't seem like we could have been struggling, but the way she held it down, it didn't feel like it at all. And so going to stay with my grandparents. Now, we would see them on the weekends, of course, but seeing somebody on the weekends versus being in the home with them day after day, that's a totally different ball game. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. Like, you don't know somebody until you live with them, right? So again, my grandparents, pastor and the first lady. So we would go, we went to go live with them. And, this is new for all of us because at this time, they're in their 50s. They're just turning 50 years old. They're looking forward to retirement. They didn't expect for this to happen. We didn't either, though. You know what I mean? We didn't either. And so growing up with them, it was hard. It was hard. It was a shock. Like, it was literally a shock for us because we went from living with our mom, who was very supportive. Anything that we did, she blew it up. Like any little thing, she blew it up, and she just really like loved us and made sure that we knew that we were loved. I'm talking like honor roll, stuff like that. Like, oh my gosh, she rewarded us, and she really let us know that, look, I'm proud of you every time. Always encouraged us. So living with my grandparents, they come from homes where their parents didn't play no games with them. They come from homes where their parents literally abused them. My grandma told me plenty of stories of how her father, beat her up and things like that. And my granddad, he went through things with his family. He saw a lot growing up as well. So, I mean, the thing about it, y'all, and I'm not making excuses for, what me and my brother went through, but it's like when you have unhealed trauma and you have children, like, you're going to pass that down to them. You're going to pass that down to them, whether it's intentional or not. You're going to pass that stuff down because you haven't dealt with it, right? So me and my brother, like I said, we got beat. We got beaten. We were abused growing up with our grandparents. I'm not even gonna lie to you. How our mama raised us versus what we went through in that home, it was nothing like it. We done been cursed out before. I remember my granddad punching me in my face. I remember my brother getting tased, and my grandfather, he was a farmer at one point, and he had a hog shocker that you would use on animals. And I never forget stuff like that. Like, they use that on us as punishment methods. Like, y'all talking about like belts and whoopings. Nah, we got anything in arm's reach, no matter what that object was. We got it bad. And that's not discipline, y'all. That's abuse. If you're using extension cords and stuff like that, that's not disciplining a child. That's abusing that child. That's literally beating the hell out of that child. And that's what we went through. And so it was just bad. And I'm just like, man, no, our mom didn't raise us like this. So my job, growing up was always, look, let your brother know how you were raised so he won't grow up thinking this is how it's supposed to be. No. So I always, had that demeanor that our mom had towards him, because I'm letting him know, look, I love you. I'm here for you. Who our mom was to both of us is who I want to put that into you, let you know that this isn't right what we're going through. I remember us being told, oh, nobody else wanted you. We're the only ones who wanted you. Nobody else wanted to take care of you. Your sorry daddies didn't want you. Y'all gonna end up like this. Told me I was gonna end up like this aunt who had a house full of kids. So my brother, he was gonna end up like this uncle who sold drugs and in and out of jail. They told us this as kids, y'all. And again, this is a pastor and first lady who did this. And like I said, I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to tell my story for exactly what it is. And so I was just like, grew up with a lot of confusion, grew up, not trusting people because it's like, man, this ain't right. This ain't right. And, we would try to talk to other family members about it. The ones who knew it, it was like some of them, it felt like there was nothing they could do because these are the people who have custody over us. These are our guardians, right? And so whenever we would talk to like other family members, they would make excuses like, they're just old school. It's because of how they're raised. They don't mean no harm by it and stuff like that. But it's like, no, y'all didn't know just how serious the abuse was that we went through, man. Like, y'all didn't understand just how bad it was. Like, my brother got tased, bro. My brother got tased. I've been punched a couple times by my grandfather, like beat in my face before with a belt. Like, we went through a lot growing up, man. Like, it was bad. The emotional abuse, like, it was never sexual, and I thank God for that. But the emotional abuse that we went through, the physical with the beatings and stuff like that, man, that was traumatizing for us, especially coming from a home where that was non-existent. Our mom didn't even curse at us. So we hearing stuff from them, and it's like, yo, you a whole pastor. You a whole first lady with the world? Like, nah, man. Like, I knew it wasn't right. So growing up, like I said, I stayed to myself. I like, me and my brother, we talked to each other. But as far as talking to them, nah, I couldn't trust them because and they used to get mad. Like, how do you expect me to talk to you when you over here one day you beating me and cursing me out, the next, oh, y'all don't talk to nobody. How do you expect me to talk to you? Like, and I guess there's a couple generations of people who where no matter how your parents or people treat you, you're supposed to still act like everything's okay. No. Like me, if I don't trust you, I'm not going to talk to you. Nah, man. And I couldn't trust them because no. So that's what it was. So again, growing up in that, it was a lot of turmoil. And there was times I ran away before. It was just so bad, y'all. Like, they would get a check for us every month, and it's like, they would tell us they paid for bills, but, we weren't bad off. Like, they both had good jobs. Like, there was money coming in. And so it was just like weird to me because it's like y'all getting y'all money on top of the money that we get monthly from a check. Y'all, like, we couldn't, there were certain field trips. I remember my brother couldn't go on certain field trips because they were deemed too expensive. Like a $77 field trip he couldn't go on. And it's like, y'all got money. Then on top of that, the clothes that we wore. And I'm very grateful, because there's people who are just naked out here. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, bro, for us to have that money that was coming into that house, there was no reason why we couldn't have the things that, we wanted or needed too. Like, come on now. And so our great grandma, after our mom passed away, we would go spend the weekends with her. And that was our escape. That was our escape because it felt like, man, we going through it so bad in here. Like, I look forward to the weekend spending it with our great grandma. And I mean, she loved us and gave us the love that our mom, would have gave us in a sense. Like, she was just so sweet. And like, growing up with her, we already grew up with her our whole lives. So being able to spend that time with her now that our mom's gone, it meant the world to us because we have an escape outside of what we're already going through. And I remember we used to hate going back home. We used to hate having to come back home. And our aunts, they would see that and they'd be like, what's going on? And we'd just be like, we don't want to leave. Like, we love, being here with y'all because we know what we're going back home to. And it was just so bad. Like, it was crazy. And so grew up with a lot of confusion, a lot of turmoil, couldn't trust nobody, communication issues because I don't trust them. I can't trust nobody. The very people that's at my house that's supposed to be loving and, showing me the love don't have it. It's bad enough that we already lost our mom, but to go ahead and have to deal with this too, it was so bad, y'all. And so my teenage years, like I said, I wasn't a bad kid. I did, what kids do, but I wasn't a bad kid. Neither one of my brother either. We were kids. You know what I'm saying? We were kids. And so I remember, I'm a backpedal real quick. So at the age of 5 years old in kindergarten, I can remember as early as kindergarten that I had feelings for women. I knew that I was different. Like, I knew that I looked at the girls how the boys would. And, I suppressed that because it's like, man, I'm a kid. I don't know what to do with this. And I know that in the society I grew up in, I didn't grow up in the era where everybody was just out. I didn't grow up in that era where everybody was just open with their sexuality, pride and stuff like that with the flags and stuff like that, rainbow stuff. No, if you were gay, you kept that to yourself. Like, and I knew how people felt about it because I saw my family, how they spoke about gay people. Like, I knew it was taboo. So it was like, I grew up with those feelings. I always had those feelings, but I just suppressed them because I knew who I was growing up around, especially with my grandparents. That's the part that got me. Because my grandparents, they would say stuff about gay people all the time. And it's just like, man, like, these are just people just like us. Like, leave these folks alone. And so I remember as early as kindergarten, I had those feelings for girls, grew up with those feelings for girls throughout middle school and stuff like that. And I had friends who were like, you're gay, this, that, and other. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Because I knew the climate that I grew up in. So I kept it to myself. But at 17, my junior year of high school, I'll never forget it. 17 is when I started to embrace my sexuality. That's when I started to embrace my sexuality. And it was like the girls, they started liking on me. So I'm going through all of this at home. And I'm not blaming what I went through as the reason why, I went fully into homosexuality. No, because I'd already had those feelings. But because of, the things that I was going through, like my father wasn't in my life for one. So I'm looking at men like, bro, like y'all don't treat women right. And then I seen the guys that my aunts and people were dating and these guys treating them how they treated them, and women were expected, if you were married to a man, you were expected to deal with this stuff. And I'm like, man, no, you ain't got to deal with this. No. So I already had an idea, like, first of all, I'm not attracted to y'all, but now I really don't like y'all because I see how y'all treat women, and my respect for women was through the roof. So you ain't about to treat no woman wrong, and to this day, you're not about to treat no woman any kind of way in front of me because, no, I will check you. I don't play them games with anybody, though. Like, don't do that, especially with women and kids. Like, don't even play like that. So my respect for women through the roof or whatever. And so seeing all of that, it's like, man, first of all, I don't even like y'all like that, but now I really don't like y'all or whatever. So like I said, I had boyfriends, but it was never a thing of, oh, my first kiss with a boy or sexual encounters with a boy. Nah, you arm candy. My homegirls, we going to a movie, you just gonna be my date. That's it. It wasn't no thing. We could text or whatever, but homeboy, you ain't getting nothing around here. Nah, it wasn't going down like that at all. And so at 17, my junior year, girls started liking on me. And, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I should, see what this is about. Got into my first relationship and, man, turned my world around because I was sheltered as a child. I was sheltered. My grandparents, they kept us guarded from a lot, and I'm thankful for that because, we weren't exposed to a whole lot. So when I'm 17, my first sexual encounter, first kiss, all of that, like my world is just turned upside down. Now my head is just like wide open now, So yeah, that relationship, I was young, 17 years old, man. I ain't knew nothing about nothing like that anyways. That was my first real relationship. Nobody ever taught me how to be in a relationship anyways. So my communication skills and stuff like that, I ain't honed them in yet. This is my first everything really. And so that relationship ended up ending because it was just toxic. She was cheating and, you know, stuff like that. So I was like, man, nah, I ain't even, we just gonna leave each other alone. So I went through a series of monogamous relationships, in and out of relationships, monogamous. Like, I wasn't out here in these streets, but look, if you can't treat me right, I know somebody who will. Like, I knew who I was. I knew my worth. So if you can't treat me right, I'll find somebody else. That's what it was. And it was a cycle of that. This one can't get right, on to the next. This one can't get right, get me another one. Like, monogamous relationships, though. It wasn't no thing if I had multiple partners. Nah, I wasn't into that. Because STDs are real, and you got some people out here who don't believe that, but I always did. No, ma'am. Didn't play like that. So again, I'm in these monogamous relationships. Then I graduate high school. I tried going into the military, but it didn't work out. So I came back home and I went to college. I went to college in the cities that my aunts, they were living in or whatever. Both of them were living in the same city, upstate or whatever. So I went to college, and at this time, nobody knows who you are. And that's the thing about college. You can be whoever you want to be, right? So nobody knew me from a can of paint. And that's how we talking this up, y'all. Nobody knew me from a can of paint. And so I'm able to, you know, reinvent myself, basically. So I remember my first year, I was locked in because this is like my second chance. The military ain't work out. This is my second chance. So I remember, you know, my first year, you know, I met friends and things like that, but nobody knew my sexuality, right? Nobody knew who I really was, like, in that sense. So I'm locked in. Like, I'm only focused on my schoolwork, things like that. I went to a couple parties, but it was never a thing of, you know, I was a party animal or I wasn't, you know, responsible, like, doing what I need to do. Nah, I handled business my first year of school. And so I was just locked in. And so my first year is also when me and my father reconnected. Me and him reconnected, and it was a beautiful time because when me and him reconnected, I started getting the answers to things that I always, you know, wanted to know. Like, people were telling me, oh, your daddy didn't want you. He was this, that, and the other. So now I'm hearing it from the horse's mouth. What really went down? Why did you and my mom, you know, break up? Like, what really went down? And he was giving me all my answers about my family, his side of the family, you know, getting to know that side of my family too. So it was great. He would come pick me up on the weekends from college. I got to meet my stepmom, and she loved me from day one, like I was hers. And I love that woman like she's my mom for real, because God brought her into my life, you know, like, for a reason. And she's been there for me like I'm her birth child from day one, ever since the day I first met her. And so I'm very grateful for her. And yeah, so got reconnected with my dad and everything like that. Because like I said, growing up, I still, you know, was able to see him. I knew who my father was, but, you know, it wasn't a relationship because hearing this stuff from my grandparents and my family telling me that my dad didn't want me. And then it's like, for me, it was like, you know that my mom is gone. So why couldn't you step up to the plate? Like, so I went 4 years without talking to my dad because I just cut him off for 4 years. Like, you know that I don't have my mom, and you could be here for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could have been here for me. And so I was dealing with all of that because I have another brother on my dad's side. And, you know, like, me and my brother, we're good. Like, all of my siblings, we're good. Like, no animosity or nothing. Like, you know, it's all love. But it just hurt me as a child because they're saying all of this stuff. And then I'm thinking about it like, man, you know, where are you? I need you, and you're not here. So I cut him off for like 4 years. And so when we reconnected, my first year of college, I got every answer I needed. You know, people telling me your daddy didn't want you. He said, well, I actually tried to get you, but because I had a record, you know, of course, I couldn't be in the same home with you. And he was battling alcoholism. So, of course, he couldn't get us. So I'm like, oh, so all these years, people telling me, oh, your daddy don't want you, this, that, and the other. You actually tried. Like, if I would have known that this man tried, y'all, I would have never cut him off because it's like, okay, at least you tried. But the story was painted to me, your daddy just didn't want you. And you know what I'm saying? Like, I grew up with the mom who, she let me have make my own assumptions of him. She never called him, oh, he's just an alcoholic. He ain't no good. Look at how he just left me with you. She never did that. So to hear this from these people who are pastors and preachers and stuff like that, my mom never bashed my dad ever. Never bashed him. Never did. Never said anything bad about the man ever. But my other side of the family, oh, they did. They did, and it was wrong because you don't do that to a child, especially when my mom is deceased. Like, why would you do that? Like, no. But that's another story for another day. So reconnect, I'm getting all these answers. And it's like, man, finally I got this relationship with my pops now. You know what I'm saying? He getting to know me. I'm getting to know him and seeing that I got a lot of him that's in me. And that was funny to see that. So it's like his mannerisms. I'm like, oh, so I know why I do this now. I know why I act like this now. So it was a great time. And so that summer, before my sophomore year of college, I'll never forget, I got a phone call. One of my aunts had called me and told me that she heard from my cousin something happened. She was like, call your dad. And so I'm like, okay. Called him, he didn't answer. So I ended up finding out that my dad died. He passed away. He got drunk. He was dealing with his own things, of course. He got drunk and he ran his truck. His truck he ran into a pole, and he passed away. And I'm not saying it wasn't no suicide type thing. Like, it was just you drunk and driving, impaired driving. That's why we shouldn't do it. And so after he died from that, it tore me up. I'll never forget. I turned into a completely different person because I felt like I was really out here by myself. And people like to talk about, like, sometimes I feel like a motherless child, man. Like, look, it's one thing to be motherless, but like to not have nobody at all, both of your parents gone, and I'm only 20 years old at this time, that thing hurt me so bad because it's like, finally, I have my father in my life now. And you mean to tell me that, he's gone? And the way that he died, it just hurt me because it's like, man, like, I remember telling my dad before he even passed away, I was like that, because he told me, he said, man, he said, everything in life is great. It's just this alcoholism. I got to beat it. And I told him, I said, Dad, I believe in you. I said, I believe in you, man. Like, you can do this. I believe in you, Dad, and I love you. So my dad knew I loved him, and I knew he loved me. And that's what gives me peace, because it wasn't a thing of where he was cut off from my life and he just passed away. So I thank God that I was able to reconnect with him. But y'all, that thing tore me up. It tore me up so bad when my father passed away. I turned into a whole different person. I'm cutting people off. I'm leaving people alone. I went, a long time without speaking to my stepmom. She would try to reach out to me, but it was like, I was just so damaged, man. I was so damaged because it's like, man, I'm really out here in this world by myself. And it was hard for me. So I had to go through that process, the anger, all of that. I had to go through that. And so around time for me to go back to school, it was given an option, go back to school or take the semester off. I remember my sister, my best friend, she's my cousin, but, we like sisters. So that's my sister. And she was just like, if you need to take time off, take some time off. And I was just like, nah, man, I got to finish it up. Because I was so hurt because he had missed so many key points in my life. I was like, finally, I'm halfway there. You can see me graduate from college. And for that to be taken away, it was like, man, you got to be kidding me. So I pushed through, went back to school my sophomore year. And so, at this point, I made my peace with it, because by losing my mom early, all those feelings came rushing back in, that grief and stuff came rushing back in. And with death, for me, it's like, this is a part of life. Everybody that I love, including myself, is going to die one day. So it's like, you got to make peace with that, because it's going to happen whether we like it or not. That's the only thing in life that's guaranteed. And so, I was able to make my peace and, just continue to go on with that. And so I went back to school and, at this point, I'm thinking, like, I'm still in tune with my schoolwork, of course, but it's like, man, now I want to live. Because I remember one of my cousins, after my dad passed, the wake and everything like that, she was like, now you got to live. So I was like, I'm going to live my life now, I'm going to live my life. So I went back to school, and around this time, it was around homecoming for college or whatever. Around this time, I'm starting to get attention from girls, because I'm starting to become more myself. Like, I'm out, living my life as a lesbian. So it's like, I'm getting more attention from girls, and, they starting to like on me again and getting attention. So I ended up getting involved with this girl. It was just a fling. It wasn't nothing serious. So I went through a series of flings, especially in college. So I went through a couple of flings or whatever. I got into a year and a half real relationship, with in college, but that didn't work out because neither one of us I'm not going to say we shouldn't have been together, but it just wasn't meant to be in that sense, because it just wasn't working out. And so we ended up breaking up. So again, I'm going through monogamous situations again, a repeat of high school kind of with my relationships. Like I said, I was never a toxic person to my girlfriends like that. Like I said, I wasn't the type that was going to beat on you. I wasn't the type that was going to call you out of your name, none of that, because my respect for women was so high up. So you ain't had to worry about me putting my hands on you or calling you out of your name, the B word and stuff like that. Man, I would never, because I was raised better than that, for one. And I was raised by a woman, I didn't see her go through that. So I wouldn't put no other girl through that, man. I was the type, send flowers. I was in high school buying bags, MK bags, getting them delivered to the house, edible arrangements. And I'm in high school at this time. Getting flowers sent home. You get off the bus, you got flowers waiting on you. They parents looking like what's she trying to do? What's going on? You know what I'm saying? So I was always a romancer, a charmer, if you say. But I was never the type. I was faithful to my girlfriend, so it was never a thing of, I'm just a bad person. No, it wasn't that. Like I said, I made my mistakes because my communication was terrible. My communication was terrible because I didn't heal from what my grandparents put us through, so I didn't trust nobody. I would give you enough, but I wouldn't give you like my full self. Like I would give you myself, but it wouldn't be like a full thing of where, okay, I can tell my feelings to her. Like when I'm broke, I tell her no. I never did that. Like when I had girlfriends, when I got short on money, I got to hustling. And they'd be like, well, why didn't you just tell me? I'm like, I'm supposed to tell you that. I didn't know. I didn't grow up with somebody teaching me how to communicate and how to tell my feelings and stuff like that. So it was like, man, I handled everything for myself. Like, you know, I got myself in this situation. I'm gonna get myself out. But growing up, you grow up and you realize, okay, this is what a relationship is. This is a two-part thing. You know what I'm saying? So I had to grow in that. And so again, going through college, I'm still in school, by the way, my last year. And so going through college, like I said, I'm in a series of monogamous things, you know, with girls and everything like that. So I got to the point where it's like, you know what, man, I ain't even about to get involved with no girl like that no more. I'm not taking y'all serious no more. Ended up getting on Tinder. I don't know why I did that, because that was like the mistake that I should have never made, because that's when I started meeting psychos and understanding that there are real psychos in this world that will fall in love with you over FaceTime. Don't know you from a can of paint, but I fall in love with some words off of FaceTime. And I mean, you know, I'm sure you can tell when somebody's genuine and stuff like that, but still, man, like I could have been anybody. I could have been a whole trafficker out here. You wanted to come over to my house, ain't never met me before. What if I could have set you up? Like, y'all, like, people got to think about stuff like that. So I got off 10. I deleted that ASAP, because ain't no way. Ain't no way. So I remember that summer I was just, you know, doing my own thing. I'm working, handling my bills, handling my business. I'm like, man, I ain't worried about getting involved with no girl. I'm cooling. And so me and my friends, some of my best friends from college or whatever, we ended up, you know, going on a birthday trip for them to the cabins in Tennessee. So around this time, I had met, like, probably a month before this trip, I had got involved, or I started talking to one of my friends' friends or whatever. And it was just a little thing. Like I said, we're gonna see where this goes. Like, I ain't serious about y'all. Like, I'm cool on y'all, because y'all ain't really with it like I am. Like, y'all not honed in relationship wise like me. Like, I'm trying to be one with somebody, and y'all playing. Y'all ain't ready for what I'm ready for. And so it was just gonna be a thing. If we see where it goes, we both agree we're gonna see where it goes, right? So we get there, you know, we had been talking for like 2 weeks. Everything was cool. She telling me, you know, how the trip gonna go, what we gonna do and stuff like that. So I'm like, all right, cool. You know, we just kicking it. So we get there and I get rejected. We get there, y'all, and it's like a whole switch. You know, we even had a conversation together, because I'm like, we had the conversation. I'm like, yo, what happened? Like, what did I do? And she was just like, it's not you. You know, I know how I am, and I don't want to put you through that, because you're such a sweet person. You don't deserve this. You know, I know how I am. So I was just like, look, I get it. You telling me you know how you are. I'm gonna save myself. You know, you did that. That's cool. It is what it is. So I'm like, man, forget it. You know, it is what it is. I wouldn't, you know, it wasn't gonna be a serious thing anyway. So I was confused, but it is what it is. And so I was like, all right, well, dang, like, you know, it wasn't gonna be no serious thing, and you know that. So it was what it was. And so on the trip, my friends, they also had, you know, a cousin. You know, they looked at her like that was their aunt or whatever. So, you know, we had known each other. We met each other at a Halloween party in 2019. So I knew who she was or whatever. We would interact here from there, but it would never no thing like that. Like, I always knew she was a beautiful, gorgeous woman, but I would never like go that far with her. Like, I wouldn't look at her for too long. I would kind of avoid her or whatever. Like, I would avoid her or whatever. And so she ended up telling me, you know, she had been plotting on me since then. And I was just like, you know, I was trying to stay away, because, you know, I know how close you are to them, and I didn't want to be no confusion, no strife, nothing like that, you know. And then, you know, I knew she was an older girl. And so it's like, you know, I never dated an older girl. I always dated within my bracket. And I'm 23 at the time, and she was 29. So it's like, you know, I didn't want to do that. But, you know, on that trip, okay, so I'm dealing with the rejection and stuff like that. And me and my mind said, look, you don't want me, that's fine. I know somebody else who do, or, you know, somebody else will. So it's cool. It's cool. So me and my friends, you know, they call her aunt or whatever, my ex. So we ended up getting involved with each other. And man, you know, it was just like, it was a spur of the moment thing. Like, I wasn't expecting things to go how they were, and I'm sure she wasn't either. Like, it probably was gonna be a thing if we just had our fun with each other. And so we ended up hooking up on the trip, and just blew my mind. You know what I'm saying? Like, my mind wide open now, and I never been with no older girl either. Man, put the moves on me, boy. And so, like I said, I'm real and I'm transparent. So if you under 18, you probably don't even need to listen to this. But yeah, so that had my mind wide open. So we texting, we FaceTiming throughout the night. We ended up catching COVID. And so I'm, you know, on the phone with her, you know, making sure that I'm still breathing. Somebody know that I'm still alive, because COVID wasn't no joke. And so I went the whole first year without getting it, and now I got it. And it was just like, man, what the world? So we kicked it. You know, we spending time together, getting to know each other and stuff like that. And I mean, man, it just happened like real quick. Like, everything happened real quick. The trip was in July. By August, we were in a relationship, and she had been going through some things family-wise. So she ended up moving in with me. And like, again, we getting to know each other, so we don't really know full out things about each other. Like, I knew she was a parent and everything, but I didn't know, like, the full scale of everything like that because everything happened so fast. And, you know, that's not her fault. Shoot, we both involved in this. Both of our minds wide open. So she getting to know me. I'm getting to see her for who she is and stuff like that. So it's like, man, like, I really want to get with this girl and get to know her on that level. Like, be with her. And so that's what it turned into. So we got together, and again, she was going through some things with her family, and it was a situation where, you know, she was like, you know, look, I don't know what I'm about to do because either I'm gonna go back home and, you know, have to travel back and forth, and she did that between cities before, or you know, she just didn't know what was gonna happen or whatever. So I told her, I said, look, so you can avoid, you know, having to ride back and forth, you know, with an hour or so away, you know, just stay with me, you know, until you figure things out. And that's what, you know, we were gonna do or whatever. Just stay with me. So she moved in with me and her son as well. And like I said, you know, I was always this type where I grew up seeing how men would act. Okay, they would do this thing where, okay, they'll be like the greatest, funnest dude ever, you know, when they getting to know you and stuff like that and get to know your parent. But once they get in there, get married to him or something like that, that's when they switch up. They get comfortable and they switch up. And I ain't like that. I ain't never like that. And I've seen that too many times. So for me, it was like, look, you know, this is a package deal. I love you. You love the mother. You love the child. So from day one, I'm only 23. Day one, I loved him like he was my own. Anytime I came in contact with some money, we all getting set. Like, you know, school clothes, all types of stuff. Like, you know, that was my child too, because this is a part of you. I love you. I love him. Period. So it was like a dream come true because it's like, okay, it's new. You know, I'm 23 years old. I ain't never dated nobody with kids. I ain't never dated an older person either though. But it was like a dream come true for me because it's like I finally got the love I always wanted. I always wanted kids. You got kids. So it's like a dream come true now. Like, I got the package deal for real, right? So, I mean, it was a dream come true. Like, the girl could cook like nobody's business. My God, she could cook. I gained a couple pounds in that relationship. And so, you know, she, like, it was a great period, a great time in my life because not only do I have her who I love, but I also have, you know, a son in a sense that, you know, somebody that I can pour love into. Everything that I wish somebody would have taught me and how I wish people would have loved me, I can give this to him now. Even though you're not mine by blood, you mine by love, man. Like, I love you like my own. So that's what it was. And like I said, it was a dream come true. That relationship was from August of last year to around April when we really cut things off or whatever. And so again, those 8 months were like a dream come true. We ain't never had no issues. I'm talking, we would take trips, you know, went to Vegas for her birthday. Like, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful time. And at the time, I also came into some money from a settlement. I had got hit by a drunk driver. So, man, now we balling out. We enjoying life. Like, I'm just living the life, man. And I'm just enjoying everything that I have because it's like God really blessed me like with this and everything like that. So it was beautiful. It was a very, very beautiful thing. And so around February, because like I said, we didn't have no issues. It was not a toxic relationship at all, y'all. Like, it was a beautiful relationship. And anybody who saw that relationship from the beginning to the end, like, bro, like, it was a beautiful, beautiful relationship. No toxicity. We weren't calling each other bitches and stuff like that. We were never calling each other out of our names and stuff like that. And because I've been with girls who thought that it was okay to call you out your name and fight you because we both girls, right? Nah, I didn't live like that. And she wasn't like that either. And this was the first time I was with somebody who what I gave them, they gave me back, right? Like, this was the very first time that I was with somebody who loved me. Everything I gave to her, the girl was giving me back, helping me out and, you know, stuff like that. Like, I ain't never had that before. So I'm like, man, yeah, I really lucked up now. And she was just beautiful. Like I said, beautiful woman. So I'm like, yeah, it's lit now. Like, I'm a little family. Everybody else, all my other friends and family, they got to fall in love. Now I got the love of my own now. So I began to, you know, hone in, just be about me and my family. That was it. So it was like a dream come true. And so around this time, February, after Valentine's Day, so this was the week after Valentine's Day. You know, we still on a love high because we had just celebrated Valentine's Day. Her birthday was in January when we went to Vegas. So everything going well. So things started to dwindle down. You know, things started to dwindle down. My communication was she said the communication was the only bad thing that we had going on in the relationship. That was it. Other than that, we ain't had no issues. So I'm thinking, you know, we were going to fix that and keep on going on. The love was there. Like, we really loved each other. So, what happened? So, we ended up like around February after Valentine's Day. I knew who God was, right? But I knew of him. I wasn't really in tune with him how I am now, right? So I always knew of God. and knew who he was, because I grew up in church and things like that. I knew he was good. I knew that he was loving. I knew that he was kind, that he died, that he sent Jesus to die for my sins. I always knew that, but I didn't have a real relationship with God until this year at 24 years old. So, like I said, I was taught religion. I was taught you got to get right with God, get right with God. You can't do this, you can't do that. You got to dress like this. I had to wear skirts and dresses to the church every Sunday. Like, it was real religious, but it was nothing. Nobody taught me about relationship. Not only did nobody teach me about relationships human-wise, nobody taught me about relationship with Jesus, like having that open relationship like we have with friends and family. Nobody taught me about that with him. So now I feel the tug of God. He's pulling on me because I already knew who he was, but I wasn't fully living for him, right? I believed, but I wasn't living for him. I wasn't following him. And to be a Christian, you have to follow him, which means live according to his purposes, obey him, and repent, which means turn away from sin. So I was just living how I wanted to. Now, again, so for me, with my relationships with women, I just saw it as, look, growing up, people say you an abomination. And that's another thing, y'all. My granddad, 17 years old, my first relationship, I don't know how I forgot about this. 17 years old, I was outed. I didn't get the chance to come out. So I was outed. He never told me who outed me and stuff like that, but he just came home. I'll never forget. Him and my grandma, they told my brother to go outside and play, and they sat me down. And I'm just like, what's going on? And so they sat me down. They was just like, look, I've heard from 2 ladies that you are involved with a woman. They said the girl's name and everything. And I'm just like, like sweating in my boots a little bit because I know how y'all feel about gay people. Like, y'all don't like that at all, And this is, we grew up Southern Baptist or whatever, like. So I knew how they felt about it. They talked about it all the time, like in church. My granddad would talk about how it was evident how they felt about gay people. And so, yeah, he told me, he was just like, I've heard from 2 people. I've been mad all day. I came home from work. I've been mad all day. Women told me that you dating this girl. And he just said it. He said, if it's true, I will take you out back and I will shoot you and I will kill that sin. And I put that on everything I love. That's exactly what he told me. And my brother is a witness to it. So this ain't no lie. And this is a pastor, y'all, who told me this. And I love my grandfather. Don't get me wrong. I had to forgive both of them. I had to forgive them from a lot. But I never forgot that. He told me, he said, because I'll take you out back and I will kill that sin. And so I'm already getting abused. I'm already getting abused by this man. So it's like, man, ain't no telling what you'll do. So in my mind, it's like, man, I got to deny it. You know what I mean? So I denied that. And, I still had girlfriends, of course, but it was on the low. Like, it was the elephant in the room. Nobody talked about it. They knew what was going on, but it was under wraps. It was never a thing of, a girl coming home to meet my family and stuff like that. Nah, man, nah. Not in my grandparents' house. No, ma'am. And so, again, growing up with that, being gay for me was just a thing of, it was a preference to me. It was my preference. It was never a thing of, I thought of it was wrong or it's a sin and things like that. I would hear people say that, but I'm like, man, I ain't hearing that because you out here sinning way worse than me. You fornicating. You had sex before marriage, still having sex out here, and you trying to talk about me? Like, bro, like fornicators go to hell too. Like sex before marriage, liars, drunkards, people who are abusers, cheaters, they go to hell too if they don't repent. According to 1 Corinthians 6 and 9, they go to hell too. So just as fast as people send gay people to hell, fornicators and all these other people go to hell too. It's a whole list of people who go to hell, like in the Bible, like written out. And people love to quote Leviticus and stuff like this, but you talking about Leviticus, but you're wearing, your beard shaved up. You are out here, you're talking about Leviticus, but Leviticus is the same book that talks about how you can't, mix fabrics or anything like that. And I'm not negating what the Bible says at all, but it's like people throw that out, talking about you're an abomination, won't even explain to you what that means. Didn't even take the time to tell me in love how I was living was wrong. Nobody ever said that. They told me I was going to hell. I was an abomination. My mom would be so disappointed in me. You're going to hell. You weren't raised like that. You were raised up in church, but nobody's giving me the truth and love. Nobody ever preached to me 1 Corinthians 6 and 9, which saved my life. But we're going to get into that in a little bit. So yeah, it was always a preference to me. You like boys. I know I like girls. Or you like girls. I like girls just like you do. The way you see women is how I see them too. Like, it was never a sin to me. I just seen it as, okay, this is what I like. What is wrong with me? I like liking or loving. What has got to do with you when you out here sinning way worse than me? Or, have sinned way worse than me? Why are you condemning me to hell when you need to check yourself, right? So I ain't worried about that stuff. So me growing up, like I said, I just love a woman. I was never the type to put a label on what I was, stud. And some people ask that all the time. Are you a stud and stuff like that? No, man, I'm just me who happens to be gay. Like, I'm just me. I like women. That's it. Like, I didn't grow up in an era where it was studs and femmes and stuff like that. No, you were gay or you were straight. or you were bisexual. And bisexuals always got a bad rap. Like growing up where I was from, bisexuals always got a bad rap. So you had gay, straight, and bisexual, and that was it. So it wasn't no thing of a label on it. You know, I was just me. I was just Quay who was gay. That was it. Loving my women. That was it, you know. So around this time, God starts to pull on me, and my life started to dwindle down, y'all. Like so much stuff started to happen to me, you know, on the inside. Like our relationship, it wasn't no problem like that, but it was starting to affect our relationship because she could tell that something was wrong with me. And so it's like, man, like I don't even know how to put into words like what's really going on with me. You know, you asking me, you know, what's going on. I can't even put it into words for you. And so it was just so bad. Like I started battling what I thought was bad anxiety, you know, thoughts that I was about to die. So at this time, I'm like, look, Lord, you know, I'm trying to like, I'm hustling real bad. So I was a delivery driver and an Uber driver at this time, getting my money like that. And so, you know, I went from making good money to all of that stopped. It was like, you know, I would get money, but it would be just enough to cover like gas and, you know, food for the day and stuff like that. So I'm like, man, what is going on? So I felt like the prodigal son at this point in my life. And I said, you know what? I said, I don't have to do this on my own. I said, I've been trying to figure this stuff out by myself on my own for too long. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go back to my father. So I said, you know what, God, look, whatever I'm doing it wrong. I need you to help me because I am just on the wrong path and it just keeps getting worse and worse. Week after week, my life just it's the same cycle. Like, I need your help, God, because this ain't living. This ain't it. My life was not like this before. And it ain't had nothing to do with my ex. It ain't had nothing to do with our living situation. It ain't had nothing to do with it. I said, God, this is a me and you thing. Like, what is going on? So I said, you know what, God, I got to get this back to you because obviously I've been trying to play God in my own life. So I'm going to give my life back to you so you can help me. And y'all, I'm expecting financial breakthrough, him to just take the anxiety and the depression away, those thoughts away. Y'all, God did a holistic change in me. Because like I said, I didn't see nothing wrong with nothing that we was doing. So I'm thinking, you know, God gonna bless me financially and that's just gonna be it. And we're gonna be on our way and we're gonna be back to how it was. Man, look, at this point, I said that prayer. I gave everything up to him and I left it. And I said, you know what, God, you got it. I'm gonna give this to you, give my life to you. And you lead me like you've been leading me before. Like you got me. I don't have to do this on my own. So y'all, I'm thinking he just going, you know, just send some quick blessings and stuff like that, send some money and stuff like that. Man, look, he started changing my whole life. And I'm talking, I'm watching sermons, more sermons. I'm getting into it with my Bible, starting to read my Bible again. Because I'd always, you know, read my Bible and stuff like that here and there. I read my verse of the day, the Bible app, read my verse of the day, of course. And what else? You know, we weren't really going to church like that at the time. During the whole relationship, we didn't really go to church until around the end of it. So we weren't going to church. So it was like, you know, my whole life was about me and my family. That's all my life was about. Like I knew God. I would say a prayer, say a quick prayer in the morning. Lord, protect me, keep me, let this day go good. Quick prayer, you know, at night, Lord, keep me, let me see tomorrow, stuff like that. Like it wasn't no real relationship with him. Like it was like what I could get from him and stuff like that. You know, I would thank him for the blessings, but it was no real relationship with God. It was not me talking to him. Like, you know, it's not me talking to him like I am to y'all. And that's what God wants from us. So I'm watching sermons. I'm getting to know God more. I'm reading my Bible. And, you know, around this time, you know, the anxiety is still turning up. Everything turning up. So I'm like, what is going on? Like, what is going on? And so it's so crazy. On Facebook, I ran across one of my good friends, her page or whatever. And it was talking about how, you know, she had once called herself a gay Christian. Basically how God had delivered her from homosexuality. So I'm looking at it like, what she mean? Like, what's going on? So I looked into it deeper and she talked about her whole process and things like that. And it went viral, man. And I'm grateful for her because she was very instrumental in me first getting out of that, or not getting out of it, but first getting in tune with Christ. So I'm looking at her page. I connected with her. Like, thank you for sharing your story, because it was just like an eye opener to me. Like, oh, wow. Like, she was talking about how she battled, you know, depression and anxiety and stuff like that too. So it was like, okay, you know, I'm seeing it. All right. And at the time I'm still with my girlfriend, of course, you know, we ain't got no issues still. You know, we starting to have a little bit of problems because, you know, my communication was off. I didn't know how to explain what I was going through. So again, this was around February, and it was just like, man, I'm going through so much. I don't want her to be in this relationship by herself, meaning I don't want her pouring all into me, and I can't give her nothing right now because I'm just beat down emotionally. I'm beat down mentally. I don't know what to do. So I didn't know how to explain that either, again, because my communication skills sucked. I didn't know how to just be my full self with somebody, you know, because of what I went through in my past. I'd never healed from it. That's my fault. I'd never healed from that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a person who's just going to sit here and say this person did this and not tell what I did. Nah, let's be real. So I never healed, never dealt with my stuff. So, you know, I carried that into my relationships. And so at this time, you know, I'm starting to think about what I saw, and I saw other testimonies like Jackie Hill Perry. her story and stuff like that. So I'm like, wow, okay. These are people who've been through similar situations, grew up kind of how I did as well. And that God brought them out of it. So it's like, all right, I'm seeing it. I'm looking at it like, okay. So then, like I said, I always grew up with people who were like, you going to hell on this side, people who, like, my family weren't the type to go to like the actual events and hold the signs up, but I saw people with the signs, gays go to hell, God hates gays and stuff like that, like terrible. And you call yourself a Christian, terrible. And then, my family telling me I'm going to hell and stuff like that. So I got them on one end. Then I got on the other side, other testimonies, people were like, it's okay, it's all right with God, he doesn't see anything wrong with it as long as it's a monogamous relationship, y'all fine. And I'm like, all I'm doing is loving my girl. All I'm doing is loving her. We good. Like, we not out here hurting nobody. I'm not with her just for sex. She's not with me just for sex. So what's the issue? So I'm kind of leaning in and agreeing with them. And then other people were saying that, the Bible's been mistranslated. So this don't mean that. This don't mean that. It's okay. It's okay. So I said, you know what, God? All right, look. I said, look, Lord. And I was just as real raw like I am right now. I said, God, this is what it is for me. I said, look, Lord, you got this side who says it's okay. Then you got my side who's just like, you got this side who says it's okay. Then you got this side who says gays go to hell, God hates them. And I know that ain't true, that you don't hate us, Lord. So, God, how do you feel about it? I said, Lord, I want you to show me and make it plain. How do you feel about homosexuality? And y'all, a lot of y'all not. He led me to 1 Corinthians 6 and 9. And to this day, I don't know how my Bible got there, y'all. I opened up my Bible and 1 Corinthians 6 and 9 through 11 were there. In those verses, they taught the list about how certain people would not make it into heaven, right? Certain people would not inherit the kingdom of heaven. Those who indulge in sexual immorality, which is sex before marriage, adultery, you cheating on your wives and stuff like that, sexual sin, liars won't make it into heaven, drunkards, people who abuse people, cheaters, people who try to swindle people, you won't make it into heaven, people who do stuff like that, thieves, male prostitutes, stuff like that. And then when it got to homosexuals, like I'm looking through, like I committed a lot of these sins that is listing. And then when it got to homosexuality, I was just like, y'all, like, I got my Bible in my hand. I'm looking at it and I'm just like, oh my gosh. It says those who practice homosexuality will not inherit the kingdom of heaven. And me, there's only heaven and hell. So if you don't get into heaven, where else you gonna go? So I was just like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? Because not only have I done all of these sins, but this is the life that I'm living. Like this, me and my girlfriend, we're practicing this. And you say in your word that those who practice that unrepentant, if you practice homosexuality, you will not make it into the kingdom of heaven. So I'm like, oh my gosh, y'all. I started crying. I had my breakdown, all of that. And before he even really gave me that, y'all, me and my ex, we were already going, like, I had already broken up with her. We broken up one time before, I think once or twice before, because I was getting torn up so bad and I didn't want her to have to deal with that. Like, I'm thinking it's anxiety, but no, it was God trying to pull me. He was calling me. So I remember calling my aunt, asking her about, anxiety, her battles with anxiety and stuff like that. She said she went through it after my mom passed away, because my mom was like the rock of the family for them, for her siblings or whatever. And so I was just like, man, I'm getting torn up emotionally with anxiety. I'm getting torn up. And so she just talked to me and was telling me, you need to go to God. You need to go to God, talk to God about it. And so I'm getting torn up and my heart is just pounding out of my chest. This was around February too. And so it was just like, I just went to my ex and I was just like, look, we gotta just be friends. We gotta slow it down and just be friends. And she didn't understand it. She was like, what do you mean? Because we had such a great day that day and it was just like, it was so heartbreaking for both of us because, I didn't think that, how can I say it? I didn't think that it would have that. And I know it's probably crazy to think that, but, I didn't think that it would affect her as bad as it did. I didn't think I was going to hurt her as bad as I did in that. You know what I mean? And so to see her break down and cry, like that thing tore me up. I said, man, ain't no way I just hurt the love of my life like this, man. I never intended for her to get hurt like this. It's just I'm dealing with so much. I don't know how to explain it. And it's like, it's just hurting me so bad. I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know what to do. And so, she's hurt. I'm hurt. We ended up getting back together because it's like, man, I can't sit here and put this girl through this. Like, I love her. And to see her hurt, that's hurting me. And I never intended to hurt her. And I don't want to be hurt either because this is bad for both of us. We're both hurting right now. And like, so I said, we ended up getting back together. And around, we stayed together for like a month. This was in February. We ended up getting back together. And so it lasted for like a month. And then in around April, we cut it off for good because it was like I'm getting torn up again. And plus, at this time, God had given me 1 Corinthians 6 and 9. Yeah, 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 9 through 11. And so I'm reading through this and I'm really getting an understanding of it. Like, this is how God feels about it. I asked him for it and he gave it to me. And there's no denying this. Like, there's no changing the wording. Like, people would tell me, it doesn't really mean that you got to understand the context. Like, I know what God gave me. And that's the thing, y'all. We cannot sit here and try to change God's words around for what we want it to fit as. No. Like, the Bible is perfect just as it is. Like, and that's why you got to go to God. Like, ask him for understanding. You want to know how he feels about something? Go to him and ask him. Don't just say this and that and other. Ask him how he feels about it, and he'll give you an answer just like he gave me. I didn't want that answer. I didn't want to have to break up with my girlfriend, but ain't no changing God's word. Ain't no changing God's word. Not for me, not for you, not for nobody. So that's what it was. So, I mean, we ended up, we going to church at this time, trying to get clarity on how, how to maneuver in this. Okay, we love each other, but God's word says this, so what we gonna do? And, I'm battling that, she's battling that, trying to get on one accord with me, trying to understand, because we still love each other, but it's like, what else are we gonna do? Like, what are we gonna do? So, then what ended up happening was we ended up going to church Easter Sunday. And I ain't gonna lie to y'all, that Sunday I was almost ready to commit suicide. I was ready to commit suicide at that point. And because it was just so much going on, like I was getting torn up emotionally. We starting to go through issues and stuff like that, and it's just getting real bad. So I'm like, man, I don't know what to do. And I was just ready to give everything up because my life is just getting so bad. So that Easter morning, I was ready to commit suicide. I just didn't know how I was going to do it. Like, because I had so much going on inside of me. And I just felt like, man, my life, people's lives would be better if I wasn't even in it. I'm over here hurting her, all this other stuff. Maybe people's lives would be better if I wasn't here. And so that morning I was, I wanted to commit suicide. I just didn't know how I was going to do it. So we ended up going to church and we went to her family's church. And I thank God that we did because that service saved my life. That service changed my life and it saved my life because the pastor, he's a prophet. And I thank God for him. He's a prophet and he ended up speaking into me. He spoke to all of us, honestly, but he ended up speaking into me. He said, look, God loves you. He said he loves you. And he started telling me things about myself that nobody else ever knew. He started telling me things about myself that I was thinking on the inside. And I said, yeah, nobody but God could have told you this because she don't even know this about me. He was telling me about my belief and, how my faith was starting to fade in God and stuff like that. But he said, God loves you. He said, LaQuisha, God loves you. He loves you. And he's going to heal. He was like, God is healing you from some things that weren't your fault. And the first thing I thought about was my mom's death, the things that we went through as children. Like, that wasn't my fault. And so I knew it was the truth. And so it was like that saved my life. It's like, you know what, God, you are real. You are for me and you got me. And he was just telling me that God is going to heal you. He's got it. Don't worry about it. God loves you. So after that church service, get home and stuff, and I'm still, dealing with my feelings. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do now? And, I would ask people, based off of what 1 Corinthians 6 and 9 says, I would ask the question like, so based off of what this says, if we continue like this, can you tell me that I'm not going to go to hell? My ex couldn't tell me. Nobody could tell me. They would like, look, I can't answer that for you. So it's like, okay, like, this is the answer right here. Like, we got to break this off. And she was like, God loves you and stuff like that. You just heard him say that. And I'm like, yeah, but that don't mean that he's okay with this. He had already given me what I've been looking for. So around this time, April comes around, we trying to be in a relationship, trying to, keep the relationship afloat. So we ended up going to the movie that night. And right before I left out, because I was doing my deliveries for the day, just to have money so we could go out or whatever. Like, it was bad, y'all. It was so, so bad. And my life had never gotten that bad before. And so I remember vividly doing my deliveries, but I also looked at those verses again and I looked them up, just to do my own research. And the Bible is clear about it. Like, I didn't like it either. And I'm sure other people don't like it, but it's the truth. This is how God feels about it. We can't change that. And it was hard for me too. I didn't want to accept it, but I had to. So what ended up happening was I started reading. I was on a delivery, waiting on a delivery at this restaurant. They take forever with orders. So I'm just reading my Bible and looking at testimonies of people who have been through what I went through. And so I'll never forget this testimony of this one girl who read those same exact verses. And those feelings that I had about it, like, this is the truth. Like, what if we're in trouble? You know what I mean? Like, what if we're really in trouble? She had those same sentiments. And it's like, man, this is how you know it's real. Like, somebody else had these saying, and it was a couple people who had those same sentiments about it. Like, I got to change my life. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but we can't do this anymore. Or, we're going to hell. Like, based off of what God's word said, if we live a lifestyle practicing this unrepentant, that's clear as day. We're not going to make it in. And like I said, this is my story, and I'm going to tell it for what it is. So don't think you about to get in the comments bullying me, because I'm going to tell my story, and this is what he gave me. So if you're going to be mad at somebody, be mad at him. 1 Corinthians 6:9. I wasn't happy about it either, but it is what it is. I had to deal with it. So not even deal with it because it saved my life. So if you want to be mad at somebody, be mad at God. Take that up with him. I'm just telling my story. This is my story, not yours, my story. And so, yeah, so I saw other testimonies of people who went through the same thing, and those verses were just like life-changing for them, like, you know, wrecked their lives, but it saved their lives. Like, it broke my heart, but it saved my life. So I'm in the parking lot bawling, crying. So we go on a date, or I get back home, because she had already asked me that day before. I was already going through the anxiety and turmoil on the inside again. And she was just like, you know, what's going on? I said, it's the same thing. I'm being torn up, and I don't know what to do. You know, I'm dealing with, you know, my relationship with God, and, you know, my relationship with you. Like, he's saying this is wrong, but I love you so much. But I got to put him first, of course. You know, I got to choose him over anything. So I remember I got back home, and I just told her, I was like, look, I said, well, we got back home, and we went to the movie, and it was a great night. Me, her, and her son, we went to the movie. We went to go see the new Batman that came out last year, either early this year, one of them. And so, yeah, it was early this year. So we went to go see Batman, and I remember God just tearing me up, my heart pounding out of my chest. Like, I know he's pulling on me. I know that he's saying stuff to me. I know what he's saying to me. Like, I got to do this today. It's got to be it. This is today. Like, I got to make this decision today. And so I was just like, Lord, look, I will do whatever you're asking me to do. Whatever it is that you want me to do, I will do it. Just spare us and let us make it back home. Because, y'all, when I felt in my heart, and I had felt that for a long time, that, you know, something bad was going to happen. If I didn't obey him and take heed to what the warnings that he was already giving me, something bad was going to happen. If something bad didn't happen to her or both of us, something bad was going to happen to somebody close to us. Like, it was going to be real bad, because he had been trying to get my attention, y'all. But I was, you know, in my feelings, trying to compromise and stuff like that. And you can't do that. So I said, all right, look, I know that what you're saying to me, I feel you, but please just let us make it home. Let us get back home with no accidents, nothing bad. Let us get back home. And if you allow us to make it back home safely, I will do whatever you need me to do. And that was that. So we left, went back home, and I just had this eerie feeling that when we were walking out the movie theater, you would have thought that I just saw a horror film. But I just had that eerie feeling. It was just so bad. So we went back home. And I talked to her, I said, look, we got to talk. Now, mind you, we had already broken up like twice before, so she knew what it was. So before I could even get a word out, because I was going to bring the scripture to her and we were going to dissect it together, right? That was my intention. Like, I wasn't really thinking about breaking up with her again, but I was wanting to bring the Bible to her and let her see it for herself and see how she felt about it. So before I can even get the words, I was like, look, we need to talk. She already knew what time it was. I said, we need to talk. She said, do you want to just be friends? And I'm like, wow, well, I wasn't intending it, but yeah, like in my mind, I'm like, I wasn't thinking about doing this. I was just gonna bring the Bible, but since you want to be, she's like, you want to be friends? If you want to be friends, it's okay. I understand. So I'm like, I say, yeah. And so she was just like, she said that she would be okay with it, but no, she took it bad again. And it was just like, with women, we're emotional, you know, and I had to remember that, like, we're emotional. So we might say one thing, but man, y'all know how that go. So when she said it, I'm like, oh, you okay with just being friends?